part 2 of hemorrhagic disorder. So we will be discussing your acquired coagulopathies. Okay, on your acquired coagulopathies, these are more common than inherited bleeding disorder due to the following factors that could affect your bleeding or your hemostasis. Okay, typically results from usual trauma, okay, drug exposure, and underlying disease. So usually your acquired coagulopathies are secondary, okay, secondary disorder that usually, okay, and no, mentioned as caused by trauma, no, blunt trauma, either blunt trauma or penetrating trauma. Then for drug exposure, such as drugs that could prolong your bleeding time, okay, and underlying diseases such as leukemia, anemia, and other diseases such as infection. Okay, common chronic condition associated with acute bleeding disorders, you do have your liver disease, okay, wherein this manifests due to this is important thing for you to know. In acquired due to the most of our coagulation factors are produced or synthesized by our liver. So dysfunction or diseases of the liver could cause an effect on our hemostatic um, balance. Okay. Then for vitamin K deficiency, most we do have four vitamin K dependent factor. Okay, coagulation factors. You do have your 1972. So what are those factor? So you do have factor 2, okay? Factor 2, 7, 9, and 10. Kaya nga 1972. Okay? Then you do have also renal failure wherein, no, due to the production of your erythropoietin and other hormones produced by your kidneys and the filtering system of your kidney, it could affect, okay, mostly by the waste product could affect your hemostatic balance. Okay, and diagnosis requires laboratory tests to confirm the condition and guide the treatment of our acquired coagulopathies. Okay, so let's have first our trauma-induced coagulopathy. So this is the leading cause of death in people aged 1 to 45 in North America. So actually, we could also have this here in the Philippines, no, due to the violence, okay, due to crime, okay, such as penetrating trauma or even blunt trauma. So about 214,000 trauma-related deaths in the US in 2015 was listed, and 20,000 of that is due to hemorrhage within 48 hours. So they have severe, okay, injuries that cause them to bleed too much or continuous bleeding that cannot be, okay, addressed by our medical treatment. Okay, your TIC is the main cause of fetal hemorrhage, but around 3,000 to 4,000 deaths could be prevented with better management. So why do we say that this is usually the main cause of fatal hemorrhage? Fatal hemorrhage because, okay, such as penetrating trauma. Okay, if you do have a lot of organs that was damaged during the penetrating trauma, that could be a difficult, okay, difficult surgery, difficult procedure in order for you to maintain the hemostatic balance and even to close your injuries. Okay, not only that, of course, if you do have various organs that was affected by the penetrating trauma, okay, you need to address that also. Okay, so that's why, no, medyo mahirap i-address pagka trauma-induced coagulopathy due to, okay, again, okay, trauma that could be fatal. And this was triggered by, okay, acute inflammation from injury. Of course, during inflammation, your blood vessels, okay, are inflamed also. And that could also lead to, okay, prolonged bleeding, okay, hypothermia, no, due to blood loss. Okay, blood loss, again, as if we remember, okay, on the discussion of your red cell function or in your blood function generally, it regulates your pH, okay, your temperature of the body, and even your um, homeostatic balance. Okay, so in blood loss, okay, during bleeding, you could have hypothermia due to the loss of your RBC. Okay, and the blood, no, literally the blood, not only the RBC, literally the blood, okay, gushing out from outside to your body. Okay, then acidosis can also trigger trauma-induced, could also trigger hemorrhage. Okay, so the imbalance on your pH level. And hypoperfusion, meaning you have poor blood flow and that causes a low BP. And that low BP could cause, okay, this poor blood flow and low BP could cause, okay, systemic shock wherein your body cannot compensate as to the oxygen requirement of your muscles and other organs. Okay? Kaya nagkakaroon ka ng systemic shock. Nasasak yung katawan mo due to the blood loss, okay? Blood loss, acidosis, and low BP and poor blood flow to your organs. Okay? So, what is the effect of the systemic shock? Okay, on systemic shock, we observe that you do have decreased Adams 13 enzyme, and that Adams 13 enzyme again. Okay, if we remember from the previous discussion of your qualitative platelet disorder, quantitative platelet disorder, we discussed your Adams 13 on your TTP. Okay, it prevents, okay, accumulation of your ultra large von Willebrand factor that usually causes, okay, platelet activation, not even platelet activation, that big clots that could cause blockage, okay, on your um on your blood vessels, okay, leading again, okay, to decreased blood flow and hypoperfusion. Okay, tissue factor release, okay, abnormal coagulation factor activation. So during trauma or during systemic shock, of course, your coagulation factors are abnormally activated due to the injury. So madaming nire-release. Okay, madaming nire-release. But if that is not enough and it could exhaust your body releasing coagulation factors that much, okay, it could lead to systemic shock, or it is an effect of systemic shock. Then loss of coagulation control proteins. Okay, here's when your body is in shock. Okay, the regulation of protein, normal regulation of protein, is disrupted due to unfavorable conditions such as acidosis. So if we would remember, okay, proteins in the body are usually denatured by high pH and low pH. Okay, so if ever that there is problem with regards to the pH regulation of your body, okay, there would be denaturation of protein, and that could lead to, okay, coagulation control, okay, loss of coagulation control. Okay, and then you also have your hyperfibrinolysis, wherein this is usually excessive clot breakdown. So since no, you don't have coagulation control, okay, and your coagulation factor activation is abnormal, okay, you can have hyperfibrinolysis leading also to excessive bleeding or hemorrhage, since no, yung napo-form pa lang na clot, sana dinidissolve mo na. Okay? And then this is also similar to TTP, your thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, no? Because this is with the problem of your Adams 13. Okay? Major surgery and complication that usually related to tissue factor release and rupture of aortic aneurysm, GI bleeding, esophageal varices, and even postpartum hemorrhage, wherein, okay, you are also having abnormal tissue release factor and, of course, okay, hyperfibrinolysis. Okay, so during bleeding, no, syempre magkakaroon ka ng um, release of coagulation factors and during tissue exposure. That's why, okay, this part is under this tissue factor release. Okay, so those are similar with your TIC. Okay, so This TIC could cause massive hemorrhage that requires usually massive transfusion. Okay, so on your massive transfusion, okay, this addresses your massive hemorrhage. So your massive hemorrhage is blood loss exceeding total volume within 24 hours. So how much of that blood volume is lost? No, usually 50% of the blood volume, okay, within 3 hours. So ilang um so yan, no, no, half, no, more than blood loss total volume within 24 hours, that is usually around, no, 5 to 6 liters of blood, and around 50% of the blood volume within 3 hours is considered again massive hemorrhage. So that is around 2 to 3 3 to 4, sorry, 3 to 4 liters per 3 within 3 hours. That could be um that could be defined as also as massive hemorrhage. And okay, blood loss of 150 ml per minute or requiring plasma and platelet transfusion. So that could also mentioned to be as your massive hemorrhage. So tatlo yung definition natin ng massive hemorrhage. First is, again, blood loss of total volume within 24 hours. This is usually 5 to 6 liters kasi 5 to 6 liters yung blood natin. Okay? So, on your next is blood loss of 50% within 3 hours, around 3 to 4 liters within 3 hours. And blood loss of more than 150 ml per minute. That requires usually plasma and platelet transfusion. So, your TIC again, no? So how do we address this massive hemorrhage? No, we utilize your massive transfusion. So on massive transfusion, we do have your massive transfusion protocol wherein we activate this with the using of this criteria. Okay, so the BP usually is less than 90 millimeters per mercury. Okay, so medyo hypo. Okay, hypotension or hypotensive na ang patient. Hypotensive. Okay, the heart rate is more than 120 beats per minute. So this is tachycardic. And the pH level is below or less than 7.25, wherein this is already that this could be already criteria for acidosis. Okay, and hematocrit level of less than 32 and hemoglobin of less than 10 grams per deciliter, wherein this could be a criteria already for anemia. Okay, prolonged prothrombin time of approximately greater than 1.5 times of the normal. Okay, and an INR of more than or equal to 1.5. So you do have now your prolonged bleeding. Prolonged bleeding. And then diminished urine output. Bakit nagkakaroon ng diminished urine output? Remember that your blood is your urine is the ultrafiltrate of blood. Okay? It is a filtrate of blood. So if you do have decreased blood volume in the body, you would also have decreased or diminished urine output. Since wala kang napifilter or konti lang yung napifilter ng kidney mo, mas konti yung nailalabas mong ihi sa katawan. So, decreased volume, blood volume is equals to decreased urine. Okay, due to, again, the filter, yung pinifilter ng katawan mo ng blood is konti. Okay? So, how do we assess? Okay, the blood, so those are the criteria for transfusion protocol, massive transfusion protocol. Now, we need to assess the blood consumption. Okay, so we assign 1 point for each of the following. So, first, okay, penetrating injury, that is already 1 point. Okay, positive fast ultrasound. So for your past ultrasound, this is what do you call this? Um, fast is focused assessment sonography for trauma. So focused um, assessment sonography for trauma. So for this one, no, we will assess the injury, okay, inside or the organs damaged or organs involved during the trauma that could be okay. That could give us better picture within the inside or is there any um hemorrhage within the inside of the body. Okay, then systolic blood pressure of less than 90 millimeter per mercury. So this is already considered again as a hypotensive individual, and again the tachycardic. So more than 120 beats per minute. So more than two criteria are met. Okay, so if your score is 4 or 3 over 4, 3 over 4 or 4, you need to activate your massive transfusion protocol. Okay, so those are the criterias. So what is the massive transfusion strategy that we will do, okay, during massive blood hemorrhage? Okay, immediate transfusion of TOD unmatched group A or B plasma. So if ever that you know or you saw and the car within the car that the patient has a blood type of this one, okay, usually no kahit unmatched, immediate transfusion. Or if you do have a what do you call this, a stocks of ONEG, no, we utilize ONEG. Okay, but if we know the blood type of the patient with these documents, okay, provided in the ID, okay, pwede naman yung ka-blood type kahit unmatched. Okay, next, 1:1:1 ratio of RBC, plasma, and platelet concentrate. This is to mimic, okay, the whole blood. So, 1:1 ratio of your, again, red blood cells, plasma, and platelet concentrate. Bakit kaya? Kasi once you only transfuse RBC, this could lead to, again, imbalance as to the plasma and RBC ratio that could lead to clotting. No, pag plasma naman, masyadong diluted yung RBC mo. That could, again, no, since imbalance yan, that could have a deteriorating effect. Okay? Decrease pa rin yung oxygen flow mo kasi nga, yung RBCR, hindi pa rin naman nare-release or hindi pa rin naman kasama sa circulation. And your platelet, okay? Since you do have a hemorrhage or bleeding, you need to also supply platelet because no, hindi naman enough if your bleeding is already categorized as a massive one, hindi naman enough yung platelet that is produced by your body or within inside your body, okay, to compensate with massive blood loss. So you need a transfusion. Okay? So kaya 1:1:1 ratio of your RBC, again, RBC, plasma, and concentrate. Platelet concentrate. Practical ratio is 6:6:1. Okay, pheresis platelet concentrate is used. Okay? For this one. Okay? So, kung yung platelet is pheresis concentrate, okay lang na 1 yung ratio niya. Kasi mas mataas yung pheresis na concentrate kaysa sa normally platelet-packed na concentrate. RBC are essential, again, for oxygen transport but should not exceed other component because it could lead to, again, polycythemia vera or, okay, RBC overload. Okay, that could also lead to thrombosis. Okay, next. Okay, so you could, what is the role of the platelet concentrate in your TIC? So per platelet concentrate, no, that is usually transfused during hemorrhage or massive blood hemorrhage. Okay, What is the role of that? Of course, this is a standard component kasi sabi nga natin, ano yung content na dapat ita-transfuse natin sa patient? Your RBC, plasma, okay, RBC, plasma, and again, platelet, concentrate. Okay? So, that is the standard component ng 1:1. Again, 1:1:1 ratio. Okay. So, some protocol restrict platelet use to cases where platelet count is less than. Okay? Less than 50,000 per UL. So, hindi ginagamit ito. Bakit? Kasi mababa yung content. So, kaya nga ano mas prepare natin if ever that we will transfuse platelet con. We usually prepare the platelet pheresis. Okay? Kasi nga, mas mataas yung content niya kaysa yung normally packed, okay, from the blood bag na platelet con. So, what are the challenges and consideration as to the use of your platelet concentrate? So, limited availability and high cost, syempre. Okay? Your platelet concentrate is usually stored for about 7 days. Okay, after that, no, usually it is not advisable to be used. Why? Because your platelet concentrate, okay, is usually stored in a room temperature with continuous agitation. Because no, if you leave it, okay, in a room without agitation, that could cause the platelet clumping and activation of your platelet due to the prolonged standing. Kaya nga, no, room temperature with, that is the important thing, with continuous agitation. So that is viable for 7 days. Yeah, after that you dispose. Okay? But depending on the protocol of your hospital and the what do you call this? The anticoagulant and preservative use, of course. So, challenges and consideration. Limited availability and high cost. No? Medyo mahal ang platelet con. So, key function. Stop microvascular bleeding. So, microvascular. Na-mention dyan. Microvascular. So, again, no? Pagka platelet, ano bang function ni platelet? This is just to perform platelet plug or the primary hemostasis, of course. Okay, the primary hemostasis, wherein the end product of your primary hemostasis is again formation of your platelet plug with the function of your platelet, okay, platelet adhesion, aggregation, okay, activation, and secretion. Yun yung apat na component niya. So, wherein your platelet will also, again, during activation and secretion, will notify or activate your secondary hemostasis leading, okay, to coagulation cascade. Okay? That could, again, prevent massive blood loss. Okay. So, pag si platelet con, that is for microvascular bleeding. Okay. Ineffective in certain condition where platelets are rapidly destroyed, such as immune thrombocytopenia, ITP. Bakit kaya? Because, again, your ITP, as we discussed, okay, you do have antibodies, okay, against your platelets. So, hence, so that your platelets will not be effective. If you ever transfuse platelets, wala ding wenta kasi sisirain din siya ng katawan mo due to presence of your antibodies. Okay? Next, your thrombotic, thrombocytopenic, purpura. Ano ulit problem natin dito? Your Adams 13. So, hindi nakikleave yung von Willebrand factor or ultra-large von Willebrand factor to initiate, okay, process or normal processes for your primary hemostasis. Okay? So, yan yung mga problem natin. And you do have your heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. Again, your heparin, okay, could affect the clotting of your platelet. That's why, no, hindi din siya effective for these three condition. So usually we use utilized platelet concentrate for, again, acquired conditions, not inherited, such as this three. Okay, so this one could be inherited, your HIT, and could be acquired. Okay, but these two usually are congenital conditions. Okay, in these conditions, platelet administration may be contraindicated except temporary life-saving measure. Temporary, bakit? Kasi nga, since you could still administer, but in a short period of time only, because later on, your platelet will be destroyed due to immune processes, okay, absence of your enzymes, and even, okay, drugs present in your blood. Next, what is the purpose of your concentrates in your TIC? So usually, we reduce transfusion-associated circulatory overload or your TACO. So now, for the concentrate, so it reduces transfusion-associated circulatory overload or TACO and transfusion-related acute lung injury. So for your TACO, no, associated circulatory overload. So this is, okay, post-transfusion complication wherein this manifested usually less than 6 hours or within 6 hours of transfusion. So within, okay, and this is immediate ang effect. Okay, so ano nangyayari? There is an overload, okay, coming from your transfusion, meaning sobra-sobra. And this could also cause, okay, a decrease circulation that could lead to, okay, embolism or thrombosis, okay, leading to decreased perfusion of your muscles and your organs, okay, that decreases the oxygen circulation. And pagka naman sinabi nating TRALI, transfusion-related acute lung injury, so ano nangyari dito? Usually the problem here is the immune response. Immune response of your patient's body to the donor's plasma. So sa WBC ang problem, and usually that WBC causes lung injury, and this is a long-term, longer period or long-term, no? Pwede siya mag-manifest for around 6 months, pag matagal na, okay? Kasi, syempre, sinisira pa lang nung immune system mo yung lungs. And that could manifest also by, okay, respiratory distress. So, kung silang injury, ang relation niya ay silang circulatory overload sa heart. Okay? So, yan. Yan yung difference nilang dalawa. So, kaya concentrate ang ginagamit natin, no? To prevent this. Okay? Kasi safe concentrate, plasma lang. Okay? Platelet concentrate, no? Very, very minimal yung transmission or transfusion with WBC. Decreasing the TRALI. So, si WBC ito. Okay? It also reduces TACO because this is due to your RBC. Okay, so yun yung difference ng dalawa. Improves patient outcome and conserve blood products resources. So, syempre, pag concentrate, no, mas konti yung ginagamit mo and, of course, mas pili. So, other blood products can be used with other conditions. Okay, other types of concentrate used. So, you can use Adams 13 concentrate. So, usually, under clinical trials for TTP treatment, and shows potential in early TIC intervention. Okay, may reduce the need for massive transfusion protocol. Meaning under trials pa. Okay, other types, we can use your prothrombin complex concentrate. So, activated APCC. Okay, brand name, Kaiba and Autoplex T. Use at 50 units per kilogram every 12 hours. So max units is 200 units per kilogram per 24 hours. Okay? So yan. And risk disseminated intravascular coagulation. Okay? So, DIC. Possible ka pa magka-DIC when you use this. Okay. Non-activated PCC, brand name, Centra. Safer option than activated and FDA approved for Coumadin overdose but off-label for TIC. Pag sinabi nating off-label, okay, hindi siya gamot para doon. So, iba yung, you call this, sa iba siyang sakit ginawa, pero it can be used, okay, on that condition also with a good effect. So, yun yung off-label. Okay? Yeah, for example, pwede siya kay Coumadin overdose. Ginawa talaga siya for Coumadin overdose. Pero effective din siya kay TIC. So, off-label. Okay? Hindi siya ginawa para doon, pero ginagamit siya para doon. Concentrate. Types of, okay? You have also your tranexamic acid, okay? Antifibrinolytic agent, and, of course, approved for hemophilia-related bleeding. And commonly used in TIC and postpartum hemorrhage. So, ito usually yung nire-reseta natin or binibigay natin for patients having bleeding. Okay? Tranexamic acid. Okay, for blood products, we could utilize your cryoprep. Okay, given if fibrinogen is less than 100 mg per deciliter or 200 mg in pph. Okay, lower risk of TACO since again, no, concentrate ang gamit natin compared to plasma. Okay? And provides fibrinogen around 150 to 250 mg per unit. And again, your fibrinogen is essential, okay, to stabilize your clot. Okay, next. Recombinant factor 7, okay, or Novo7 brand name. Okay, FDA approved for your hemophilia A and B with inhibitors. Okay, off-label used in TIC. Again, off-label. Okay, hindi siya ginawa para doon, pero pwede siyang gamitin para doon. Rapidly stop microvascular bleeding. Okay, rapid stops kasi hindi na kailangan i-activate kasi activated na to. Does not cause DIC but may increase thrombosis risk in predisposing patients. So you need to evaluate, no, predisposition of patient as to thrombotic response. Okay, so we need also to monitor the therapy. So we can monitor the therapy using your thromboelastography and your thromboelastometry. So your TEG and TEM. So we already discussed this too during our laboratory procedures. So assess real-time coagulation dynamics and, okay, evaluates effects of plasma, platelet concentrate, PCCs, tranexamic acid, and your recombinant factor 7. Okay, so lahat yan, na-check, and more sensitive than traditional lab tests. Ano ba yung usual lab test natin na ginagamit? Yung traditional, PT, KINR, and PTT. Even bleeding time and clotting time. Okay, yun yung mga traditional lab test natin. So, more sensitive siya kasi nga, no, mas madami yung parameter na pwede natin evaluate. So, kung wala namang ganong procedure or wala namang capacity yung laboratory to perform TEG and your TEG and TEM, okay, you could use platelet count as a common since to evaluate the platelet count in order to check your primary hemostasis, your prothrombin time. So, ito yung traditional, the standard, and PT-PTT. Okay? Use in indirectly monitoring therapy effectiveness. Indirectly kasi hindi naman yun, etong mga ito ang ini-evaluate. Okay? But target correction to normal reference interval. So, pagka okay na yung normal PT niya at PTT, ibig sabihin na stabilize mo na yung patient and the bleeding. Okay? Na-stabilize mo na yung bleeding na patient, not the patient. Okay? So, baka kasi meron pang ibang condition. Then, we could utilize also specialized assays. So, these specialized assays are, okay, directly, okay, measuring the components that you gave. For example, the fibrinogen component, the platelet capacity or the function, okay, coagulation factors, that you provided, such as concentrates, and even your Adams 13. So sa fibrinogen assay, we use this to measure the efficacy of your cryoprep. Kasi nga, di ba, ang content ng cryoprep natin is fibrinogen. Again, 150 to 250 mg. Okay? Pag platelet aggregometry naman, of course, platelet function. And pag coagulation factor assay, activity of your specific clotting factor such as factor 8, 7, okay, 9, and others. And Adams 13 assay for monitoring, again, Adams 13 concentrate. Okay. Post-stabilization management. So once TIC is stabilized, further hemostatic therapy is rarely needed kasi stable na yung patient mo. Okay? Meaning okay na yung bleeding time niya. If ever that meron pang underlying condition that could be a risk factor for recurrence, pwede pang i-treat or pwede pang bigyan pa ng another management. Next. Okay, next. So we do have your liver disease coagulopathy. So tapos na tayo sa traumatic injury. So for liver diseases, this is associated bleeding can be localized or generalized and can be categorized as mucocutaneous or anatomic. So na-discuss na natin yan. So types of bleeding in liver diseases. So for localized bleeding, okay, could be esophageal varices or esophageal varices. Okay, enlarged collateral vessels in the esophagus, common due to chronic alcoholic cirrhosis. Okay, alcoholism, and not a coagulopathy, but can be fatal if ruptured. So, varices, no, enlarged blood vessels or tangled blood vessels that could rupture anytime. So, usually, due to chronic alcohol consumption. Okay? So, you could also have mucocutaneous bleeding due to thrombocytopenia or low platelet count in your liver disorder because, during liver disorder, you could have platelet function impairedness, meaning that could risk you for bleeding. No? Kasi mas mapangit yung function ng platelet mo, hindi nag-aggregate, hindi nagsisecrete ng factors, okay, that could lead to, again, bleeding. Anatomic bleeding on your liver diseases, you could have deficiency and dysfunction of your procoagulant factor kasi nga, again, most of your procoagulant are produced by your liver. That could lead to more severe hemorrhagic events. Okay? If ever na hindi ka nagre-release ng coagulation factors. So, the procoagulant deficiency in the liver, the liver is responsible for producing plasma coagulation factors and regulatory proteins. Okay? So, liver disease can impair this function. Okay? For example, your cirrhosis, your hardening or scarring of your liver. So, of course, kung pangit or sira ang liver mo, pangit din ang function niya at hindi din siya magpa-function normally. Okay? They cannot produce plasma coagulation factor and the regulatory factor for your coagulation. So, that could lead to deficient and dysfunctional clotting factor that could lead you to bleeding risk or complication. Why? Kasi nga, sira yung factors mo. So, wala kang magagamit na factors during bleeding. So, continuous lang or prolong yung magiging bleeding mo. So, what are the clinical implications as to this? Your PT, INR, could be utilized for early detection of early liver dysfunction. So, as I mentioned, your liver function test, SPT-INR. It is not usually your enzymes, AST, ALT. So, again, ang pinaka-best, best function test for liver is your PT-INR. Okay. Factor 5 and Factor 7 assay helps differentiate liver disease from vitamin K deficiency. So, Factor 5 and Factor 7, liver disease from vitamin K deficiency. Bakit? Both are produced by the liver. Okay, but Factor 7 is a vitamin K dependent factor, 1972. Okay, kaya you can differentiate them from that. Okay? So, this fibrinogen, so pag dalawa yung decrease, dito sa assay na to, that could be liver disease. Pag factor 7 lang, that could be due to vitamin K deficiency. So, next is dysfibrinogenemia leads to impaired clot formation requiring targeted intervention. Kasi nga, madaming factors, no, na na-discuss na natin previously ang cause ng dysfibrinogenemia. Okay. Procoagulant deficiency in the liver. So, effects of the liver disease on coagulation factor, of course. Your vitamin K dependent factors are there. And your regulatory proteins such as your protein C, S, and Z. Okay. So, your 9, 10, 7, 2. Okay. These factors are synthesized in an active form. Okay. Des gamma carboxyl and cannot participate in coagulation unless activated by the vitamin K. So factor 7 decline first due to its short half-life of 6 hours, making the PT prolong. Okay, that is a marker for a liver disease, PT-INR. So vitamin K deficiency due to dietary limitation and malabsorption can be decreased in your blood circulation and can produce similar PT prolongation due to deficiency of vitamin K. And again, as we know, your factor 7, 9, 2, and 10 are related to vitamin K. They need vitamin K in order for them to be synthesized or activated. Okay, factor 5 deficiency, specific to liver disease. Unlike your 1972, which depends on the vitamin K, no? This factor assay can help distinguish liver disease from vitamin K deficiency. So again, paano natin i-distinguish pagka liver disease and vitamin K? Pag liver disease, parehong ang factor 5 and 7 na abnormal. 7. Pag vitamin K, factor 7 lang. Okay? So, fibrinogen abnormalities. So, mild liver disease. Okay? Fibrinogen can increases as an acute phase reactant or APC, APR. Okay? Wherein severe liver disease, this leads to dysfibrinogenemia, wherein your fibrinogen is coated with excessive sialic acid, wherein this sialic acid impairs the clot formation for your fibrinogen. So how do we test? We utilize your thrombin time, okay, and even reptilase clotting time. Pero usually thrombin time na lang ginagamit natin to assess the fibrinogen function. Okay, end-stage liver disease. Your fibrinogen level may drop below 100 mg per deciliter, which can be utilized to assess liver failure. Okay, next, your von Willebrand factor, factor 8 and factor 13. So, these three factors are acute phase reactants and may remain normal or elevated with in mild to moderate liver disease. Unlike other factors, again, your von Willebrand is not liver produced. Okay, saan ulit napoproduce si von Willebrand? Sa inyong endothelial cells and in your platelets. So, kaya this is usually not affected. Okay, usually not affected by the liver disease. Kasi nga, hindi naman siya na-produce sa liver. Okay? Next. Platelet abnormalities in liver disease. So, liver disease frequently leads to moderate thrombocytopenia and platelet dysfunction that contributes to the bleeding risk despite of variable platelet reactivity. Bakit? Ano nangyayari? Your liver Okay? Your liver, usually, no, during blood circulation, of course, if dysfunction yan, there would be some waste products of your blood that could affect your platelet function. Okay? Other causes yan of your thrombocytopenia and liver disease, the portal hypertension and the splenic sequestration. So, enlarged spleen, okay, and liver, your hepatosplenomegaly, due to portal hypertension traps platelet, reducing circulating level. So, nagkakaroon ng platelet trapping kasi nga inflamed yung liver and spleen mo. Hindi nakakalabas doon sa circulation. So, usually, 1/3 of the liver disease patients experience thrombocytopenia with less than 150,000 per UL manifestation, okay, on your platelet count. So, it could also reduce platelet production. So, there could be alcohol-related hepatic cirrhosis wherein this suppresses your bone marrow function. So, pagka um, nagkakaroon kayo ng hepatic cirrhosis due to chronic alcoholism, you are prone to bleeding disorder due to your bone marrow is suppressed to produce platelet that could be later on lead to bleeding. And acute alcohol toxicity directly impairs your megakaryocyte function, decreasing platelet release. So, hindi magpa-fragment ang megakaryocytes mo. Okay? Hindi ka magkakaroon ng platelet due to dysfunction of your megakaryocyte. Okay, next. Cause of thrombocytopenia, platelet dysfunction, defective platelet aggregation and secretion. So, defective function of your platelet due to altered platelet signaling and reduced aggregometry and lumigrometry, okay, indicating impaired platelet function. This is again due to possible cirrhosis of your liver and even increase in portal hypertension. Occasional platelet hyperreactivity. Okay? In some cases, platelet may become hyperreactive in increasing the thrombosis rather than bleeding. So, kung hindi ka naman mag-bleed, magtuthrow ka naman ng clot. So, in platelet aggregometry, remains a controversial tool for predicting bleeding versus thrombotic risk. Kasi nga, sometimes, hindi naman talaga may mga diseases that cannot be differentiated or is deviated from the normal utilized by your lab test. Okay? So, other platelet abnormalities in your liver. So, what are the clinical implications and monitoring? So, mild to moderate thrombocytopenia, less than 150 is common but often not severe enough to cause spontaneous bleeding. Okay? So, platelet dysfunction can worsen bleeding tendency even if platelet count is near normal kasi nga, kahit naman normal yung platelet count mo, madami kang platelet, pero hindi naman gumagana, wala pa rin. And platelet aggregometry may help assess bleeding rate, but it is predictable value remains debated. Okay. Next, you have your DIC in liver disease. So, DIC is a serious complication of liver disease occurring due to impaired coagulation regulation, activated procoagulants, and reduced clearance of clotting factor by failing liver. So, ano ba nangyayari pag DIC? So, your DIC is a serious complication of liver disease wherein occurring due to impaired coagulation regulation. So, again, pag DIC, meron tayong both thrombosis and bleeding. And usually, activated procoagulant and reduced clearance of clotting factors by the failing liver causes this DIC. So, again, si DIC ay isang secondary disease. Okay? Secondary disease. So, ano ba nangyayari pagka may liver disease related to your DIC? Excuse me. Ano nangyayari? There is impaired coagulation regulation. So, hindi mo na-regulate yung coagulation factors mo that could lead to bleeding. Okay? And pwedeng ma-activate naman si clotting without any necessary injury. Okay? So, magkakaroon ka naman ng clotting kahit hindi naman kailangan. Okay? This is, and could be, no? Pwede namang nagkakaroon ka ng bleeding kasi hindi naman nakakapag-produce si liver mo ng anticoagulants. Okay? Ay, ng procoagulants, sorry. Clotting factors mo. Okay? So, possible ka magkaroon ng DIC during liver disease. So, what is the pathophysiology of DIC in liver disease? So, reduce production of natural anticoagulants. So, the liver fails to produce regulatory proteins such as your antithrombin. So, not only your coagulants are produced by the liver, we also produce your natural anticoagulants. And your protein C and S, your protein regulators. So, loss of this protein shift the balance towards thrombosis. So, pwede ka magkaroon ng thrombosis or clotting. Pagka naman uncontrolled activation of coagulation, magkakaroon ka naman ng bleeding. Okay? Ay, sorry na, clotting pa rin. Uncontrolled coagulation nga eh. Degenerating liver cells release activated coagulation factors leading to microvascular thrombosis and consumptive coagulopathy. Okay, wherein primary or metastatic liver cancer may also release non-specific procoagulants, worsening the DIC, causing ischemic complications. So, during this time, no, nagpo-produce ka pa rin ng clot due to uncontrolled. Pwedeng meron kang mga regulatory proteins pero hindi naman nag-i-stop yung coagulation. Okay. Next naman, impaired clearance of coagulation factor. So, the liver normally removes activated clotting factor and fibrinolytic products. But, no, if your liver is failing or hindi na normal, okay, this allows these factors to persist, leading to bleeding. Kasi nga, okay, your fibrinolytic products, no, cut down ng coagulation factor or coagulation factors, pwede din mag-produce ng clot, okay, leading to both thrombosis and bleeding. So, that is due to liver failure. So, hindi natatanggal ni liver yung mga kailangan tanggalin. Okay? So, other findings on your DIC during liver disorder or the liver disease, acute uncompensated DIC is seen, prolonged PT, PTT, TT. Okay, prolong lahat ng coagulation test mo. Your fibrinogen is reduced. Your D-dimer is markedly increased. Bakit markedly increased ang D-dimer? Again, your D-dimer is end product of your fibrinolysis wherein, no, dapat matatanggal siya but since your liver is dysfunctional, markedly increase. Okay? Platelet decrease. Bakit? Again, pwedeng dysfunction in the sequestration or platelet trapping. Chronic, so that's for acute. Pag chronic compensated naman, your D-dimer still elevated. Okay? And other regulatory coagulation tests are usually normal kasi nga compensated na. Na-compensate na natin yung others but still your D-dimer is abnormal. Kasi yun yung ating measure or hallmark for DIC. So how do we manage? Of course, we address the underlying disease. No? So kung ano yung underlying disease, kung liver dysfunction, we manage your cirrhosis. Treat your liver cancer. Okay, improve your liver function. Okay? So, supportive therapy for hemostatic abnormality. So, other, hindi naman natin usually, you call this, hindi lang usually yung underlying disease, but also we provide supportive treatment for your bleeding. So, what are those? First, the bleeding management, wherein you could utilize plasma transfusion, such as utilization of your fresh frozen plasma or thawed plasma that replaces the clotting factors that was involved. Kaya, activated or non-activated PCC. Okay? Your platelet concentrate, usually utilized for severe thrombocytopenia and cryoprep if your fibrinogen is less than 100 per milligram. 100 milligram per deciliter. We usually see this in your DIC. Ano pa? Kung pinaprevent natin yung bleeding, we also prevent the thrombosis kasi nga dalawa yung kondisyon pag DIC. So, antithrombin concentrate, we could use that to restore the balance of your anticoagulant, and tranexamic acid to prevent excessive fibrinolysis. So, what are the hemostatic tests? For liver disease, combination of your coagulation test, and this test may help to distinguish liver-related coagulopathy and other causes such as your vitamin K deficiency and systemic fibrinolysis. We already discussed that from the previous slides. So here is a summarized table of your liver disease findings and clinical correlations. So nasabi na natin din yan kanina. Okay. So these are your hemostatic laboratory tests in liver disease. So, differentiating liver disease from vitamin K. So, nasabi na natin, pag factor 7, both decreased in liver disease and vitamin K. Pero pag factor 5, liver disease lang. And normal siya sa vitamin K since your factor 5 is not vitamin K dependent. But your PT is corrected with vitamin K if in case of vitamin K deficiency during severe liver disease. Okay? So, specialized test naman, we can utilize D-dimer plus plasma fibrinogen wherein this is decreased. Usually confirms your systemic fibrinolysis. Okay? And Raptilase time confirms dysfunctional this fibrinogenemia wherein structural fibrinogen defects are usually seen. And factor assays, such as factor 5, 7, and again, that is usually used for your to differentiate your liver disease and vitamin K deficiency. So this is a table, mentioning your various tests and what are the interpretation relating to liver diseases. So, the treatment related to hemorrhage, if ever that there is vitamin K deficiency, we treat with vitamin K therapy. So, oral vitamin K or IV vitamin K to correct bleeding due to non-functional creatine factors that are vitamin K dependent. But effect is short-lived due to impaired liver biosynthesis. So, still, we need to treat the liver condition kasi even though you provide supplementation of vitamin K, still, hindi pa rin normal yung production since impaired yung liver mo. Okay? Plasma transfusion provides all coagulation factors. Okay, but bone Willebrand 5 and 8 may be reduced because they are all labile factors. Okay, vitamin 7 is short half-life, so PT may not return to normal. And typically 2 units, adjusted based on the cardiac and renal functions are needed during transfusion. Okay, and again, we could also have risk of TACO and TRALI. Okay, so others, we could utilize fibrinogen replacement if the fibrinogen is less than 50 mg per deciliter and there is a spontaneous bleeding. So, again, cryoprep because this is concentrate of your fibrinogen. And fibrinogen concentrate commercially available is this brands. Okay, risk of plasma and cryoprecipitates. So, potential viral transmission due to harboring your viral infection. But this is already being eliminated due to screening of bloods. So, higher risk of allergic transfusion reaction due to presence of your antibodies. Other hemostatic therapies, we could utilize platelet concentrate if thrombocytopenia is seen in bleeding, your PCC, alternative to plasma, for clotting factor replacement. Okay, in order for you to reduce the TRALI, okay, your recombinant factor 7, okay, may used selectively if there is deficiency in factor 7, and your tranexamic acid to prevent fibrinolysis and stabilize your clot during your prolonged bleeding. Okay. Now, we go to chronic renal failure. So for renal failure, no causes of bleeding in chronic renal failure is usually due to platelet dysfunction, wherein this could lead to mild to moderate mucocutaneous bleeding. Okay? And suppressed platelet adhesion and aggregation, this could be possibly due to guanidinic acid or phenolic compounds coating the platelet due to inadequate filtering mechanism of your kidneys. And anemia and thrombocytopenia can contribute to the bleeding due to decreased secretion of your erythropoietin. So, hemostatic activation syndrome affecting the kidney. So, usually, fibrin deposits in renal vasculature can reduce kidney function, wherein this fibrin deposits blocks the normal function of your kidneys. Not only the kidneys, but the anatomic structure. Okay, associated disorder, you could also have, again, your DIC, HUS, and TTP, which are already discussed previously. Other causes, transplant rejection, and even glomerulonephritis seen in your SLE or in your lupus. Okay, what are the findings? Bleeding time may be prolonged but still unreliable, and platelet aggregometry is non-predictive due to the function is normal in the platelets. PT and PTT are usually normal because, again, normal naman yung coagulation factors. So, management of bleeding in renal failure. So, of course, dialysis improves platelet function, especially when anemia is corrected. And RBC transfusion or erythropoietin therapy, such as your brand epoetin alpha and Procrit, which helps the anemia. Your desmopressin can also be used, or your DDP, wherein this stimulates your von Willebrand factor to improve platelet adhesion and aggregation. And avoid platelet inhibitors such as aspirin, clopidogrel, and prasugrel, and ticagrelor, due to increased hemorrhagic risk. So, usually, ito yung mga gamot na hindi na natin binibigay if the patient is already in his renal failure stage. Cause and associated conditions. So, increased glomerular permeability leads to protein loss. Okay, linked to chronic glomerulonephritis, diabetic glomerulosclerosis, lupus, amyloidosis, and vein thrombosis. And all of this condition, okay, leads to blockage of your kidney structure. Okay, loss of coagulation factor in urine. So, usually, your vitamin K dependent and factor 12 are lost, including your antithrombin and protein C. Okay, that could lead you to thrombosis, where in 25% of cases of loss of your regulatory protein outweighs the loss of your procoagulant. This may lead you to venous thrombosis rather than bleeding. On vitamin K deficiency, of course, dietary deficiency is rare due to its presence in green leafy vegetables and minimally daily requirement, but you do have limited body stores, and deficiency can be seen in prolonged parenteral nutrition or fad diets. So yung mga IV lang. Okay? Pagka nasa ICU mga patient, usually ganyan yung binibigay natin. Kaya mas mataas yung risk nila for bleeding. Fat malabsorption, okay? Because your vitamin K is a fat-soluble vitamin. Okay? Biliary duct obstruction and chronic diarrhea could cause this condition. And broad-spectrum antibiotics that disrupt your normal gut flora because your microorganisms found in your gut helps in the regulation of or activation of your vitamin K. Okay, so other things that you need to know in vitamin K deficiency. So your hemorrhagic disease of the newborn, which should already be discussed previously. So continually, constitutionally, vitamin K is administered after birth. So this can be seen in sterile intestines, no? Walang bacteria yung gut to synthesize your vitamin K. Kaya nagbibigay tayo ng vitamin K after birth. Low vitamin K levels in the human milk and delayed gut flora establishment in breastfeeding infants. So routine vitamin K administration at birth is significant to reduce cases in developed countries and of course to reduce the bleeding tendencies. So vitamin K antagonists such as your coumadin, okay, or warfarin. So it inhibits gamma carboxylation of clotting factors that blocks your vitamin K recycling. So ano affected factors? Of course, your vitamin K dependent factors. Okay? Called also your FIVCA. Okay? Overdosing or poison. So rat poisons contain warfarin or super warfarin like brodifacoum, okay, causing severe hemorrhage because of the inactivation of your vitamin K. So this requires vitamin K therapy and PT monitoring, usually in IV form. Okay, warfarin overdose is most common cause of your hemorrhage and ER-related visits on pesticide poisoning, such as rat poison. So, how do we detect the vitamin K deficiency? Of course, there could be manifestation of prolonged PT, variable prolonged PTT, because vitamin K dependence, okay, is usually manifested by factor 7 that is evaluated by your PT or extrinsic pathway. For mixing studies, adding normal plasma corrects the PTT abnormalities that usually confirm the factor deficiency. And because of your factor 7 has a short half-life, wherein this is first to decrease, followed by your factor 9, 10, and 2, or your prothrombin. Kaya mas, usually ginagamit natin sa factor 7 to evaluate your vitamin K deficiency. Auto-anti-factor 8 inhibitors and acquired hemophilias. So we go now to your specific hemophilias that are acquired. Okay, acquired autoantibodies can inhibit coagulation factors such as your prothrombin, factor 5, factor 8, 9, 13, and your von Willebrand factor. So your auto-anti-factor 8 is the most common, okay, factor deficiency, okay, acquired factor deficiency that leads to acquired hemophilia A. Okay, again, factor 8 is A, factor 9 is B, and factor 11 is C. Affects mostly of adults over 60 of age with no underlying disease but can be associated with usually rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel syndrome or disease, and lupus, and even your hypoproliferative disease, wherein this is usually causing autoimmune. Okay, autoimmune complexes. Pregnancy typically appearing 2 to 5 months postpartum, but usually this resolves spontaneously due to returning blood circulation to normal. So, this incidence is 1 per million per year, so very rare. Symptoms, sudden, acute, no? In manifestation, severe bleeding in soft tissue, GI, and urinary tract. Okay. Fatal in approximately 20% of cases, even with treatment. So usually this is due to aging na kasi. Okay, and adults no cannot tolerate prolonged treatment and even no kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng mataas na fatality rate. So diagnosis of your acquired hemophilia. So of course, we could utilize our laboratory tests such as the traditional ones. So your PTT is prolonged. PT and TT are normal. Bakit? Kasi nga, intrinsic pathway. Okay? So, factor 8 activity, usually less than 40 units per deciliter and often undetectable. So, that could suggest no factor 8 deficiency. So, clot-based mixing studies. Of course, substitution of your normal plasma, okay, could be an indication that you do have factor 8 deficiency. But no, returning prolonged after 2 hours at 37 degrees, that could have auto antibodies. 50% of cases show immediate PTT prolongation. Okay, high avidity inhibitors. So factor 8 inhibition follows type 2 kinetics. So non-linear inhibitor, and you could use your Namigen Bethesda assay that quantifies inhibitor titers to guide treatment. So na-discuss na natin to sa laboratory assays natin. So other factors, factor 2 or prothrombin inhibitors. So often seen in your SLE. Kaya mahirap pagka meron kang SLE or lupus kasi you do have multi-factor deficiency and even other autoimmune conditions. Okay, so approximately 30% of the lupus anticoagulant cases and PT is prolonged. Of course, bakit PT? Kasi this is an extrinsic factor. So may cause thrombosis or rarely bleeding. Pag factor 30 naman, very rare. Okay? But can cause life-threatening bleeding condition associated with autoimmune disorder, okay, lymphoproliferative disease, and even tuberculosis treatment utilizing isoniazid. Pag factor 5 naman, okay, arises spontaneously in autoimmune diseases or after exposure to bovine thrombin or fibrin glue that is usually utilized in surgeries. Okay, less common after 2008 because of the utilization of human thrombin in medical products and surgical procedures. Factor 10 inhibitors, rare but seen in amyloidosis due to absorptive loss rather than autoantibodies. So what are the management for acquired hemophilia? Usually, acute bleeding control, utilization of your activated PCC, and recombinant factor 7. So, bypass factor 8 and stops bleeding kahit hindi factor 8 directly yung pinoprovide natin. If inhibitor titers, kaya nga hindi din factor 8 yung pinoprovide natin kasi meron silang autoantibodies for that. Okay? If inhibitor titer is less than 5, okay, in Namigen Bethesda, you could utilize desmopressin or factor 8 concentrate. Okay? But requires monitoring of your PTT. Okay, long-term management, of course, immune tolerance therapy to reduce inhibitor levels and plasma exchange in severe cases, less reliable than immune tolerance. Bakit? Kasi pinapalitan mo lang yung plasma to remove the antibodies. Pero usually, less reliable nga siya. Okay? So, next, we do have acquired von Willebrand disease. So, for acquired von Willebrand disease, similar symptoms to your congenital von Willebrand disease. but occurs due to underlying conditions such as hypothyroidism, monoclonal gammopathies, Wilms tumor, okay, intestinal angiodysplasia, congenital heart diseases, pesticide exposure, uremia, lupus, autoimmune, lymphoproliferative, and even myeloproliferative disorder. See, what are the causes? So, decreased production of your von-Willebrand factor due to possible presence of inhibitors. Okay, absorption of your von-Willebrand factor into abnormal cell surfaces in your cancer, such as lymphoproliferative disorder and even Wilms tumor. Autoantibodies for your von Willebrand factor, but this is usually very rare, no less than 2%. So, clinical presentation and diagnosis. So, the symptoms is moderate to severe mucocutaneous pa rin due to your von Willebrand is for primary hemostasis. So, PT is normal, but PTT may be prolonged if factor 8 drops below 40 units per deciliter because your factor 8 is required, okay, in or is in relation with your von Willebrand factor. So the diagnosis, decreased von Willebrand activity and antigen levels via immunoassay. So differentiation from mild congenital von Willebrand can be difficult kasi nga same na same yung manifestation. Treatment. Same din yung treatment with congenital desmopressin or your DDABP, okay, to increase von Willebrand levels. So you could also use plasma-derived factors such as factor 8 von Willebrand concentrate. Okay, these are your brands. And cryoprep is no longer recommended. Bakit? Kasi due to usually lack of viral inactivation, okay, in cryoprep. So next, we have your DIC. So na-discuss na natin konti kanina. So DIC is a thrombotic disorder despite its hallmark of hemorrhagic symptoms. So uncontrolled activation of coagulation can lead to widespread fibrin deposition in small blood, okay, causing tissue ischemia and organ damage. Kaya nga usually, no, mas more on thrombosis siya kaysa bleeding. Consumption of clotting factors, that is usually the cause of your bleeding disorder. Okay. Causes. Most common is sepsis, trauma, malignancies, OB complications, severe infection in even burns or organ failure can manifest with DIC. So the symptoms is both bleeding and thrombosis. It could be seen, okay, as mucocutaneous bleeding, and thrombosis, you could manifest deep vein thrombosis, stroke, and even multi-organ failure due to multi-organ involvement. So how to diagnose? We could utilize laboratory tests such as PT-PTT with abnormal or prolonged result, low fibrinogen level due to depositions, and increased D-dimer, which is the hallmark, okay, for your DIC. And this is usually the marker for our fibrinolysis. And thrombocytopenia, that is manifested with low platelet count. And the treatment, okay, treat the underlying cause because this is acquired, okay? Infection, trauma, or cancer. So, treat mo muna to para ma-correct natin si DIC. So, we could use supportive treatment to correct the bleeding and the thrombosis. So, platelet and plasma transfusion if there is bleeding, and heparin if there is thrombosis, if mas madaming thrombosis. So, that's it for our part